Hello everyone, and welcome back to the BioScholar channel. Let's discuss passive transport in detail. Passive transport is the movement of substances across a cell membrane from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration, without the input of energy from the cell. This movement occurs naturally, following the concentration gradient, and does not require the cell to expend energy to facilitate it. There are four main types of passive transport, each playing a vital role in how substances move across the cell membrane, all without using the cell's energy. First is simple diffusion. Diffusion is a type of passive transport, which means it doesn't require any energy or ATP from the cell. In simple terms, diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration, until equilibrium is reached. This process happens naturally, due to the random motion of particles. Now let's discuss why diffusion is important. Diffusion is essential because it allows cells to absorb nutrients and eliminate waste, without using energy. For example, oxygen from the air diffuses into the blood through the alveoli, while carbon dioxide diffuses out from the blood into the lungs to be exhaled. This entire exchange is driven purely by diffusion. Let's see another example. Inside the small intestine, nutrients like amino acids and glucose diffuse from the digestive tract into the bloodstream. Although diffusion is constantly occurring, it doesn't happen at a fixed rate. Its speed can increase or decrease depending on several factors such as temperature, the concentration gradient, the size of the molecules, and the medium through which diffusion takes place. So, diffusion is a natural, energy-free process that allows small molecules to easily pass through the cell membrane. But what happens when the molecules are too large or carry a charge? In that case, the cell needs a different strategy: facilitated diffusion. It is a type of passive transport, which means it does not require any cellular energy or ATP. Let's first discuss why cells need this special mode of transportation. In simple diffusion, small molecules like water can easily pass through the lipid bilayer of the cell membrane. But sometimes, the molecules the cell needs are either too large or charged, and they can't pass through on their own. In such cases, the cell uses this special transport mechanism called facilitated diffusion. It's a special type of diffusion. The basic principle stays the same: molecules move from an area of higher concentration to lower concentration. But the key difference is that the movement is facilitated, or helped, by membrane proteins. These proteins act like gateways, allowing only specific large or charged molecules to pass through, safely and efficiently. Here is the proper definition of facilitated diffusion. So far, we've understood what facilitated diffusion is and why cells need it. Now let's explore where this process actually happens inside our body. In other words, the applications of facilitated diffusion in real biological systems. First application is simple: glucose transport in cells. After you eat, glucose levels rise in your blood. But glucose is too large and polar to pass through the lipid bilayer. So, cells use a glucose transporter protein to bring glucose inside, using facilitated diffusion. This is especially important in muscle and fat cells. Next example is ion transport in nerve and muscle cells. Ions like sodium, potassium, and calcium can't pass through the membrane freely because they are charged. Facilitated diffusion helps move these ions through channel proteins, allowing nerve signals and muscle contractions to occur. Third example is gas exchange in red blood cells. Though gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide mostly move by simple diffusion, certain gases or larger molecules that attach to carrier proteins, such as urea or some waste products, may also rely on facilitated diffusion for efficient transport. Facilitated diffusion is not just a textbook term. It's a lifeline for many essential cellular functions. Then we have osmosis, a special kind of diffusion where only water molecules move. Osmosis is a type of passive transport, just like diffusion, meaning it doesn't require any energy from the cell. But unlike diffusion, osmosis specifically involves the movement of water molecules, and only water. In osmosis, Water moves from an area of higher water concentration to an area of lower water concentration, across a selectively permeable membrane. Now let's discuss why is osmosis important. Water is life. Cells are made up of nearly 70% water. Osmosis controls how water enters and exits cells, which affects cell shape, size, and function. Without osmosis, cells wouldn't be able to absorb water, regulate pressure, or maintain internal balance, called homeostasis. Here are the real-life examples of osmosis. Roots absorb water from the soil through osmosis. The water moves into root hair cells where the water concentration is lower than in the surrounding soil. When placed in pure water, red blood cells swell and may burst due to osmosis. In salty water, they shrink as water moves out. This is why osmosis is carefully regulated by the body. Salt or sugar is used to preserve food because it draws water out of microbial cells by osmosis, dehydrating and killing them. So osmosis is same like diffusion, but it transports only water. Last type is filtration, and it's quite different from the others. You've already learned about diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis, but filtration works a little differently. So let's break it down. Filtration is a type of passive transport that moves particles and fluids across a membrane due to pressure differences, not concentration gradients. It does not require cellular energy or ATP, because the force comes from hydrostatic pressure, usually created by blood pressure or gravity. Let's take a look at a few real-life biological examples. The most well-known example of filtration happens in the glomerulus of the kidney. Here, blood pressure forces water, salts, glucose, and small waste molecules out of the blood and into the nephron tubules, while larger molecules like proteins and blood cells stay behind. This is the first and most crucial step in urine formation. In body tissues, filtration also takes place at the level of capillaries. As blood flows through tiny capillaries, pressure forces fluid and nutrients out of the blood into the surrounding tissues, providing nourishment to cells. Here is an important point to note that filtration is a non-selective process. It doesn't choose what to let through. Anything small enough passes if the pressure is high enough. That's why selective reabsorption must follow, especially in organs like the kidneys. So filtration is another passive but powerful transport process. It plays a major role in fluid balance, waste removal, and nutrient exchange, all without the cell spending a single molecule of ATP. This is it for the passive transport. To know about bulk transport, click on this video. And yeah, I'll see you there.